Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dear my students, today I'm gonna give you some terms that you have to know to understand all the things about the process of qualitative data analysis. I will explain one by one for you. After you have to go to the field and then analyze the data, you will see that this is very important term. All right, let me begin with giving you the terms, the so-called EMIC focus. EMIC focus is a terms for the qualitative researchers, while ethic focus is a terms for quantitative researcher. EMIC focus, in understanding the EMIC focus, the qualitative researcher is actually working under the condition where she or he should use perspective of the members or the participants or the informants. So the informant's viewpoint is very important in this case. How do we as a researcher operate these concepts? Actually, by having or following the questions, giving leading questions. For example, when we conduct an interview, then as a researcher we have to follow the question patiently, and then we have to share leading question as many as possible, so that the researcher can follow the the genuine answers from the perspectives of the participants or informants. So informant here is given an ample of opportunities to say something without any interference from the interviewer in this case. This is the concept of EMIC focus. Well, the next one is progressive focusing. It is a time where the qualitative researcher start to analyze the data, start to focus, to make her or his focus happen. What I mean in this case is he is refining her or his focus. Do you know refining? Refining means you have to see again whether your focus is quite adequate, and then try again to read again, to know the patterns, to know the information, to know what is happening, what is important, what is not important, and then try to be focused on your case or your statement, research statement or research questions. This is a time which is very important in the start of the analysis, and refining once your focus is refined, then you can work very well with your data to continue analyzing your data. The next one is conceptualization. Conceptualization is a process where researcher or qualitative researcher begins with a simple observation or simple data that is interpreted directly. This is a process where a qualitative researcher is finding the meaning of the data reside in the ample extract raw data, and then finally the researcher or the qualitative researcher is making or in the process of making the data meaningful. right? So detailed descriptions of what was observed in a sense of why this is very important, why it is not very important. Coding is the very important part of the analysis in a qualitative research. Coding means labeling. So as a qualitative researchers, we label the phenomena, we label the meaningful phenomena we catch from the ample data, raw ample data, and then final from the artifact, from the field notes and the interview extracts. We try to find the labels and we create the labels. We create names in the form of word, phrase, or sentence. Categorizing. Categorizing is segmenting data into meaningful ways. So the qualitative researcher is identifying patterns, processes, or commonalities and differences, and take them out in a field to the next waves of data collections. In this case, the researcher is going to make meaningful ways of their data. Making metrics. After the researcher end up the process of analyzing the data, finally, or in the end, before going to the conclusion, researcher is going to make a kinds of matrix. A matrix is a form which can be recorded systematically, but in features of the multiple cases or example instances of the qualitative analysis to examine for further conclusion. This is called metric. Another term which is also very important is that examining relationship. When researcher moves on to the simple descriptions after making a categories, pattern and so on, and then the researcher should be able to relate each other. The concept she or he created. So the relationship or making relationship is examining, mapping of the meaning of the internal relation of the from the categories the created. I mean the categories he or she created. This is called examining relationship. Displaying data. After the data analysis happens or finished, then the researcher is going to close the analysis by having displayed data. Displaying data is very important as the result of the analysis as a whole, or in this case the researcher wrap up the data, I mean the analysis. Well, the last one is authenticating conclusions. So in the end of the analysis, the researcher should conclude something, right? Concluding something. There, at least according to Scott, there are 3 questions need to be answered. The first one is, how credible was our informant? Were statements made in response to the researcher question spontaneous? And then the last one is, how does the presence or the absence of the researcher influences the statement or actions of the informants? These 3 questions are very important questions in dealing with the authenticating the conclusions.